2:24 a.m., Titanic reaches the bottom of the ocean. 5 to 6 minutes was all it took for the now broken ship to sink over 12,000 feet below the surface. In the commotion, a whole mass of debris came bursting out of the interior to the surface. Timber beams, wooden doors, furniture, paneling, and chunks of cork from the bulkheads. These debris injured and possibly killed some of the swimmers, but other swimmers used the debris to try to keep themselves afloat. Swimmers in the water were not just in danger from the debris, but from the water conditions. When you land in freezing water, it typically causes death within minutes, either from cardiac arrest or uncontrollable breathing in of the water or cold shock. Almost all of those in the water died of cardiac arrest or some other bodily reaction to the freezing water within 15 to 30 minutes. 13 of the swimmers were helped into the lifeboats, even though these boats had room for almost 500 more people. Rather than rush to the aid of the people in the water, the people in the lifeboat stayed put, debating whether or not they should go to help. Eventually, they decided not to, probably due to a fear of getting too close to the wreckage and capsizing. One of the lifeboats, collapsible boat B, did pick up a dozen swimmers in the water until about 35 more came to cling to the boat. So they realized that if any more came to cling to the boat, it would not stay afloat, so they slowly paddled away. Curiously, none of the swimmers who were refused entry to a lifeboat protested. One comment from a refused swimmer is alleged to have come from the captain himself, saying, "All right, boys, good luck and God bless you." This is thought to be the captain because fireman Walter Hurst said it had a voice of authority, and a few witnesses had also stated that they actually saw the captain in the water. Hurst went back to try to save the man with an extended oar, but sadly the man was not alive. At 0400, the RMS Carpathia reached the wreck site after a very risky journey through the night, dodging many icebergs. They start rescue procedures for the Titanic survivors. Some climbed rope ladders, some were hoisted in slings, and others were lifted in mail bags. By 0900, all of the survivors had been brought onto the Carpathia. Many, even though they were brought onto the new ship, still did not make it because of their injuries. Between April 15th and April 18th, the White Star Line sent 4 ships to the site to attempt to recover bodies. On April 18th, 1912, Carpathia reaches Pier 54 in New York, viewed by 40,000 people standing in the area who had received news of the tragedy. There was a wide-reaching outcry by the public and many demands for answers. Why were there so few lifeboats? Why had Ismay saved his own life when so many others died? Why did Titanic proceed into the ice field at full speed? In Liverpool, the home base of the White Star Line, representatives of the company were confronted with such public anger that they were forced to announce the list of casualties from the balcony of the company headquarters. On April 19th, public inquiry in the U.S. began, chaired by Senator William Alden Smith. On May 2nd, public inquiry in Britain began under the direction of Lord Mersey. There were findings by both inquiries. Number 1, regulations on the number of lifeboats that ships had to carry were out of date and inadequate. Number 2, Captain Smith had failed to take proper heed of ice warnings. Number 3, the lifeboats had not been properly filled or crewed. Number 4, the collision was the direct result of steaming into a danger area at too high a speed. Both inquiries also strongly criticized Captain Lord of the SS Californian for failing to help Titanic. No fault or blame was assigned to parent company White Star Line. Both courts arrived at the same conclusion that everyone involved had followed the correct procedures at the time, conducting duties that had, up to that point, not been dangerous. But the British inquiry went a little bit further by declaring that any future case like this would from here on be deemed negligence. The inquiries prompted many changes in maritime regulations. Number 1, provide more lifeboats. Prior to this event, emergency lifeboats were intended to be used just to transfer passengers from the distressed ship onto a nearby ship. So it was common for these cruise liners to have far fewer lifeboats than needed for all the passengers and crew. Number 2, conduct more structured lifeboat drills. Lifeboat training for this voyage had been minimal. Only one casual lifeboat drill had been conducted while they were docked at Southampton. That drill consisted of 2 boats rowing around for a few minutes, populated by only a few people, before returning to the ship. Lists had been posted on the ship assigning crew members to specific lifeboat stations, but it seemed that most either did not read them or did not know what they were supposed to do. Some of them didn't even know how to row a boat. Number 3, radio equipment must be on and staffed at all times. You may remember that the SS Californian had switched off and closed up 10 minutes prior to the collision. They had been near enough to the Titanic to be seen by the eye, so would have been able to rescue probably everyone if the radio had been on. Number 4, radio operators must give priority to emergency messages, not private messages. Number 5, radio emergency messages must use Q code to avoid language barriers. Number 6, shore stations Marconi of Britain and Telefunken of Germany must handle all radio calls, even if it's from the rival company. Number 7, International Ice Patrol was set up to scout the North Atlantic and report the presence of icebergs. The last initiative to come out of this happened 2 years later in 1914. SOLAS, the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, was founded, creating an international maritime partnership for safety regulations. While the eventual outcomes of the tragedy increased safety and collaboration at sea, it does not take away the sting that this might have been prevented by employing just a bit of common sense and humility. It is almost as if the higher powers were punishing mankind for their boastful ways. Today, Titanic is still steadily decaying at a rate of 0.5 to 1.0 tons of metal turning to oxide each day. We've included some links and resources in the description if you're interested in more detail and information about this tragedy. On a lighter note, if you did watch all the way to this point, please comment, King of the World, and click like and subscribe. We hope you enjoyed this history, and thank you for joining us.